Greetings, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I have drifted into the underworld. The Star Wars Underworld. I have a bad feeling about this.
Here we go. We must go to the lower levels. The underworld.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
You're after something.
Ben.
Since I've started the underworld, I've met so many great friends.
Chris.
I grew up in the 1990s, and mall packaging is nostalgic for me.
Dominic.
What I love most about Star Wars is that it's fun and it's all-round good times.
So, this is where the fun begins.
May the Force be with us.
This thing really moves!
Whoa! I like this!
I can't believe you came all this way to see me.
Why am I not in the intro? I gotta come up with a snappy line.
What's up, Star Wars fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Star Wars Underworld Podcast. We are your source for the latest Star Wars news, reviews, and discussion each and every week. And this week on the show, we're going to begin our episode-by-episode breakdowns of the Ahsoka series. We're going to be talking about episodes 1 and 2 on this episode. Also, stick around later. Dominic is going to be chatting with the Star Wars author E.K. Johnston about her new Kira-centric novel, Crimson Climb. And of course, we will not wrap up the show without another classic installment of Ask the SWU. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining us. My name is Chris, and joining me right now is my good friend, Mr. Dominic Jones.
Hello, Chris. Hello, Ben. Hello, Hannah. Hello, everybody. Yeah, I'm very excited for everybody to finally hear that interview with E.K. Johnston that I did way back at San Diego Comic-Con. Another one from my weird archive of interviews that just sort of sat on my phone for all those months of the strike. But very excited for that, and very excited to finally break down these Ahsoka episodes. It was so weird. So weird not talking about the series week to week on the show and just kind of having to sit with it and digest it. But I think that's going to make for a really interesting conversation. I think that's going to make for a fun way to look at the series, because we're not going to spend our time going, I wonder what happens next week. I wonder what's going on with that big hyperspace ring thingy. I bet that's going to be interesting. Instead, we can actually look at the story in the larger context, which is very, very exciting. I will also just apologize off the top for my voice if I sound at all a little sick. I've been battling a cold for the last several days, and I think I've finally turned the tide in the war, but who knows, it may yet come back and sneak attack me during the show. And if I have to hit the cough button at an inopportune moment, I apologize, but it's going to be a great show.
Dominic went to the mattresses against the cold.
Yeah. It was looking a little dicey there for a few minutes.
Also joining us, it's Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy, appearing for the first time in many, many months.
Yeah. Weird how that turned out. I don't know what happened last week. My mind just blanked. Something happened. I know, but it's just a memory. How's it going, guys? It's good to be here. I didn't get a chance to say last week, like, how great it is to be back doing this show. And of course, I talk about the show that we're going to talk about, because we haven't done that in a while. And I'll get into my thoughts on Ahsoka later, and I teased them last week. But particularly these 2 episodes, it really was an adjustment watching this show, just as a normal person, not as someone who has the expectations of, I have to get on a podcast to talk about this. I have to have my opinions all laid out. It kind of stifled my hype for the show a little bit, because I'm like, darn, I can't talk about this like I know. I can't get out with my Star Wars buds to talk about Ahsoka. But it did come back around, and I'm so glad. I'm so glad everything's over, back to normal. It's so good. Make sure you don't know what you got till it's gone. Truly.
Ben's like, what do I do with all these takes? I have so many takes. What do I do with them? I don't have a venue.
Well, here we go, guys. This is going to be a 5-hour-long podcast. Let's go,
baby.
And finally, also joining us, it is our resident Mars Lickelson expert, Hannah from the Raeside.
G'day there. Great to be back for another deep dive into the depths of Ahsoka. It's going to be a good discussion. I feel like we're all very apologetic today because I got to apologize for not my usual crisp mic sound. I'm on a different headset today, so it's not going to be as crispy as I usually am. But I'm very excited to be here.
There was a great moment right before we started the show where Hannah looked like she was in like an X-Wing because she had the headset on, but the mic sort of flipped up and she flips it down all cool, like, good day there. How's everybody doing? Red 5 standing by.
Just like that. Just like that.
Hannah's just very invested in this Battlefront game that's being played
yes,
right now.
I'm actually in the cockpit of an X-Wing right now, actually.
Taking that like VR experience to the next level. You're like, I don't want a headset. I want a thing.
I'm in it.
Amazing.
What also should be locked in click position is your mouse over the subscribe button.
Look at that. What a segue. What a smooth, flawless segue.
I just got a cease and desist from the company Segway in my email inbox. So make sure you punch that subscribe button, Chewie, if you're watching us on YouTube. Make sure you super chat if you want to support us, and you can also become a channel member. That's the way you can support us even if you don't watch our shows live and can't super chat. And if you're just listening to us, definitely subscribe on whatever app you're listening to us on, be it Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Google Play or anything else. And if it lets you leave a review, that would be awesome, especially if you don't live in the US. It's always fun to hear from our listeners via their reviews across the globe, and that helps us reach more people in your part of the world when you do that. And also, a really fun thing that you can do to engage with us throughout the week when we aren't broadcasting is hanging out with us over at the Star Wars Underworld Network Discord. There's a link to that in the description of the podcast and the YouTube video. So make sure you click on that and head over to Discord so you can be involved in the discussion and the hangouts and all the fun stuff that we do over there. And finally, make sure you check out all the other shows that we have going on at the Star Wars Underworld Network. We've got the Raeside over on the Raeside channel. We also got Ion Cannon right here on this channel, and Tales from Beyond the Galaxy on Twitch, as well as a few awesome new shows as well that would be great for you to check out. Ben, what's the best way to find our newer additions to the network, if we have any?
Well, so we currently, as mentioned previously, am I not coming through now?
No, you were.
It was good. It was just a tasteful pause.
It was really long. Like you were like,
I was like
that one.
I was like, I could have sworn last week you mentioned something else, but then I'm like, wait a minute, did the other guy not mention something else? Am I spacing?
Who knows? I don't even know what's happening right now. I will say that we are in between websites right now, but we do have a link tree that is all set up with all of our network members and all our information. So definitely go. It's linked in literally every single like social account we have.
Next time. That's
so
easier.
Yeah,
who needs a website when you can have a link tree? What could be better?
Let's just go to the link tree.
I'll say
I think for free too, apparently.
I'll say what the two of you are trying to figure out, which is that we have added a new show to the network, and that is Tractor Beam. It's sort of an Ion Cannon,
which is on the link tree.
Which is on the link tree. There you go.
Yes, that's what I was trying to figure out. I just kind of
even I didn't know what we were getting at.
Jeez. It's a long walk for a short drink of water. Okay. Let's dive into things. We are beginning our Ahsoka breakdowns. We're going to, as we said, we're going to talk about 2 episodes this week, 2 episodes next week, 1 episode the week after that, 2 episodes the week after that, and 1 episode the week after that. Just think about it. It makes sense. This week, we are talking about season 1, episodes 1 and 2, Master and Apprentice, written and directed by Dave Filoni, and Toil and Trouble, also written by Dave Filoni and directed by Steph Green. Original air date for both episodes, August 22nd, aka the best day of the year, aka my birthday. So we are going to go around the table, give our initial impressions of the episode. And Ben, welcome back. I'm going to throw it to you first.
Yeah. So as I mentioned last week, the first 2 episodes, upon my first watch through, did not really hit home with me. They did not connect like I wanted them to. And it's also, I think it was partly because it was just a weird viewing experience. It was that the strikes kind of threw me off emotionally of not having the podcast, not doing this whole thing, kind of just watching it and going like, okay, well, I don't have to, I don't have to take any notes. I could just watch it and just do my thing. But upon further review, and I will say Ahsoka has been highly rewatchable for me. Going back and revisiting these episodes, I think they've gotten better and better. And they really are. They're definitely, I feel like they're outliers in the sense of the whole series. They do act to as a good premiere because they do kind of play together. And so, I did like that aspect. And they do introduce all the characters. There's a lot of things that I think were a lot of unanswered questions. There was kind of these big bombs about, well, Sabine had this history with Ahsoka. She was trained to be a Jedi. What's with all that? I think, like a lot of people, was very confused by that. I think the third episode really kind of answered a lot of my questions and kind of settled things for me and helped me to appreciate these episodes even more. But overall, I think these are a great way to open the series. Not my favorite episodes of the season, but a great kind of introduction to this new era, this new characters and all this kind of stuff, and just overall, very great. Loved them.
All right, Hannah, what about you? Your initial impressions of episodes 1 and 2?
Yeah, I think it was very similar. I think just the context of this show, was just a little funny sitting in the strikes. But as a premiere, really interesting. I felt like it was such a different style or atmosphere of a premiere. I think I do enjoy. I enjoy when Star Wars is slow, and I've said that many times. And I think I really enjoyed the slowness of this premiere. I think that was very key to kind of just set up some tonality and kind of give a bit of contrast when there were some bigger moments later in the season. I think it was good that we started quite slow. So I really enjoyed just kind of having these long moments, long pauses with characters, a lot of kind of looking out to the horizon longingly. I kind of enjoyed that. I kind of just enjoyed seeing this is the space of Star Wars that we're in. So I really enjoyed it. I totally agree. I think it's probably not the strongest episodes of the season, but I don't have too many problems with the with this premiere, and except for one. There's one major problem I have with it, but I think we'll get into detail about it later. I think so.
All right.
But yeah, good premiere. Good.
I'm intrigued. I think, in terms of these episodes being slower, I think they're also the longest episodes of the season. I was trying to pull up the Disney Plus app to see if to confirm that, but seeing as I never watch it on my phone, I pull it up and it's like, you have to update it. I'm like, oh, now I can't figure out the information for sure. Now I'll never know. It's too late. There's no way to find out.
Can't know. No.
Chris, over to you. Your thoughts on Master and Apprentice and Toil and Trouble.
So the first episode is the longest, but the second one's kind of middle of the road. But the first episode's 54 minutes. The second episode's 42. The shortest of the series is 34. The second longest is 49, which is episode 5.
Makes sense.
Question.
Thank you.
Dexerto.com. I've never been there, and I probably won't ever go there again.
Yeah.
But thank you.
It's a good new website, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah. Great optimization to be at the top of Google when you ask that question. I kind of had a similar feeling to you all where, like, to me, they were good episodes. They were interesting. There were some good moments in them, but it definitely wasn't the peak of the series at all. Like, there's certain, Star Wars shows that really start with a bang. Like Star Wars Rebels is a good example of that. Like, all the season premieres of Star Wars Rebels are absolutely amazing. They're some of the best episodes of that show. Yeah. And so, this was actually kind of rare, having a Star Wars show that actually starts a little bit slower and grows as the season continues. And that's very much what I felt about this episode. Hannah mentioned, like, it was a lot of setup, a lot of slow moments, not really kind of a mini movie like you sometimes get. Like, I kind of felt like the premiere of Obi-Wan was, for example. And even Andor,
season 2 of Mando.
Yeah, or season 2 of Mando, and even the first 3 episodes of Andor altogether kind of felt like a little bit of a better start as far as just being the complete package of episodes. But with that being said, I think we're going to be looking at, it's actually really interesting to be able to analyze this within the overarching entire season, which is the first time we've done that with a Star Wars show, which is kind of cool. With the exception of, what you do on Clone Wars Strikes Back.
Sure.
So looking at it within the context of the whole season, it's great. After I first watched it, I was like, I don't know about the show. If it's going to get worse from here, or if it's just going to stay the same, I don't know if that's going to cut it. But knowing now in hindsight that it got better, now I appreciate these episodes because they do their job as setup episodes. So it definitely interesting feelings, the initial reaction versus how I feel about them now. Very, very different.
Yeah, the show was really paced like a streaming show. I think Mando and even Book of Boba Fett to an extent, but definitely Mando still almost kind of operate like they should be on TV. Like the way those seasons begin, it's like, tune in for the massive premiere of The Mandalorian season 3, and then something big happens in that episode, and then you kind of plod along until you get to the finale when it's like, everybody tune in again because crazy stuff's about to happen. Whereas Ahsoka was very much like, here's the beginning of the story, take it or leave it. Love it or hate it. And all of these shows, these Mandoverse shows, they call their episodes chapters. This one really felt like a chapter in a book. This felt like chapter 1 of a book, or even you could argue the prologue to a book. And so it was slower paced. Now for me, I'll be honest, I was in from the beginning. These episodes, even when I watched them in the midst of the strikes, they hooked me right from the beginning. Now, again, it was my birthday the day that these episodes premiered, so I was a little bit like predisposed just to like whatever, because I was like, I'm getting a Star Wars movie basically for my birthday. Like, this is about 90 minutes of new Star Wars. Oh my god, that's the best gift I could ever imagine. So I went into them just like on cloud 9, and I left on cloud 9. That being said, the moment that did make me sort of leap out of my seat the most, and this maybe tells you something about these episodes in the broader context, was when the character Min Weaver first showed up on screen in the second episode. Because I remember like years and years ago, watching the TV show House, and that guy had a regular role on that show. And I was like, oh my God, I haven't seen Dr. Taub in anything since that show ended. And here he is in Ahsoka looking like he just like transported from the set of House in 2009 to the set of Ahsoka in 2023. And I was so like sort of blown away by it. Like that kind of got me out of my seat more than anything else in this episode. But it's still like, I believe in Filoni. I believe in what he's doing here, and there was enough in these episodes that I was in from the beginning, and I was ready to see where this story went and where we now know it goes. And I almost want it's gonna be interesting as we follow this through line of the season, because I feel like I might have gone in a slightly different trajectory from the rest of you, because I started really, really high. I didn't end low, but I'm not sure I ended quite as high as I started. And we'll get into reasons why as the series goes on. But as a starter, yeah, I was right in. I was right in from the start.
It was a sobering experience for you.
Perhaps. Let's dive in literally with how the episodes begin. And by that, I mean the opening crawl that's not really a crawl. And I want to talk about this, because this has been something that has been a bugaboo of mine since 2016. And that is Star Wars has literally the best opening to any movie or any story of all time. Lucasfilm logo. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. And the Star Wars and the crawl, and it gets you excited, and then pan down to something. And for the entire, people talk about Disney and people, the new regime of Lucasfilm not understanding Star Wars, quote unquote, all the time. And I think 99% of the time they're completely off the mark, and the people who are making this stuff get what they're doing. This is the one point where I'm like, you don't understand Star Wars. They've been desperately trying to get rid of it ever since then. It's like they did The Force Awakens. They're like, okay, we've given you that. Now we're going to do Rogue One and have something else. And then with Solo, they're like, we'll do kind of a weird quasi crawl. And then, Mandalorian, okay, it's a different thing, and all the shows are different, and you can't do a crawl every week. But they still desperately want to have like a thing that says Star Wars to begin. That's obviously trying to mimic what the Marvel movies and shows have with their flippy logo thingy. And so they have this BS with the helmets before every show, and that awful music. That's just awful music that goes with it. And thankfully, one thing that Ahsoka has done really well is
I like the awful music.
They give the helmets, but they have some kind of other thing in the background. But you have the thing. You have the thing that screams Star Wars, and you don't use it. Why? Why don't you use it? And even in this, they at least they give us a crawl, but they don't give us the crawl. It doesn't go back. It goes up. It should go back, and there should be bombastic John Williams music to go with it, not this other stuff. And maybe you can't do that every week. I get it. But the Clone Wars found a way. They found a way to give us that every week. And these shows, I think if they tried hard enough, could find a way to do this every week. So, I was happy to see a crawl, but it hammers home this point for me of like, just use the thing. Use the thing. It's there. Everybody loves it. Why are you trying to reinvent the wheel when the wheel exists?
I'm going to predict that.
Thank you. I will climb off my soapbox.
I'm going to predict that within 10 years, we'll have the option crawl or no crawl. We just click a button and it happens. Within 10 years.
That's the thing, though. With streaming, they can do a crawl. They can have a crawl every single week. It would just be like a skip intro thing. Like sure. There's no time limit.
Imagine skipping the crawl. Imagine watching a Star Wars movie and skipping the crawl.
Make the previously on
Is that an
crawl.
option Disney Plus?
You have the choice between a crawl or a previously on. I take the crawl. And I love a good previously on.
On one hand, I appreciate the creativity of just like, we want to make this special. We want to put this thing that's iconic. We don't want to overuse it so people just go like, oh God, it's another crawl. Like, I get that. But also the existence of the words in Solo and this, like, necessitates a desire to like, we know the crawl is necessary sometimes. We know that like sometimes there just needs to be words at the beginning of the movie to tell you what's going on. So, and we have that already. We have this thing. And it's funny, like watching other movies that aren't Star Wars do this. I think Dune did it. I'm not sure. There's a movie I saw recently. I think did that. I'm like, they're doing their own version of the crawl. They can't do the yellow letters.
Yeah. Well, I actually kind of digged the way that it wasn't the absolute classic look, that it wasn't the yellow at an angle into space, that it was like, I think it was just a black background. It was red text that was flat. I kind of like that. It was just a different style. And I do have to say that the music that went with the Ahsoka crawl, I thought was very good. It was very suspenseful and was very well done.
Yeah. I'll give him I'll give him this. I'll give him the Ahsoka thing because it's riffing on the idea of a crawl. But it's still a crawl. I'll never understand Rogue One. I'll never understand Solo. I don't understand that helmet thing before the shows. I mean, I understand it. It's an attempt to do the Marvel flippy thing, but with Star Wars. But it's like, everybody wants something that is as good as the crawl, and you have it and you're not using it. As like keeping the best player on the bench. Why are you doing that?
The helmet
Start
thing,
Austin Matthews in overtime.
the helmet thing's confusing to me because it's kind of different for every show. And is it that they keep changing it and it's the same? I feel like you went back and watched the first season of The Mandalorian, you see different helmets now than you did before, or is it you see the old helmets when you go back and watch it?
I think you see the old helmets because I did a Mando rewatch a while ago.
Yeah, that's. I always thought that was interesting how they keep changing what the helmets are.
Yes, I think it should just be all the most famous helmets from like like every trilogy.
I like they mix it up because sometimes it is. I mean, it's obviously always related to like Bad Batch is like some of the Bad Batch helmets, and then do you get the Lego specials or some of they're like Lego helmets? That's cute. Otherwise it would get old if it was just like it was the same helmets all the time.
Yeah, it would, and it does. It gets old no matter what.
I am shocked. I'm shocked at the hate for the helmets here. I am a helmet stan here. Okay, I am helmets with terrible music stan here. I will not tolerate this.
You know what? It's because there's no like. I get that they try and do it for more specific shows, but then. Like, correct. There's like, there's a few Bad Batch helmets or whatever, or like there's a Bo-Katan one for Mandalorian or whatever. But there's within all the helmets that are flicked, there are some that are just completely not related. Like in like Andor or whatever, there was like a commando droid head, and it's like, what? This is not even related. Like, what?
That was
are you
very
doing?
strange. That's when I started wondering what was going on.
I'm pretty sure this commando.
I will say though that the best Star Wars intro was only done once. And that is the Clone Wars movie intro. That is the best Star Wars intro.
With
Speaking the truth here,
the clone troopers garbled under the Lucasfilm logo. That was pretty great.
That was cool.
I could look that up.
Pretty great.
Yeah.
All right. Let's actually talk about the episodes now that we've talked about the the crawl. We're introduced right away to two of our primary antagonists for this series. We're talking Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati. Chris, I'll throw to you. What did you think of these characters' introductions in particular?
Very intriguing. It's really interesting to see Force users that aren't explicitly Sith or explicitly Jedi in Star Wars. There's a lot more of them in the paper canon and the expanded universe legends than on screen canon. So I thought it was cool to include them, and I feel like they're just as mysterious now after watching the whole show as they were after their introductions. There's still a lot more to learn about these characters and their motivations and what's really going on with them and where they came from. So very, very strong characters, very interesting, and yeah, I think my initial reaction was just, all right, let's find out more information about this. And I'm still kind of halfway in that position now.
Fair. Hannah, what about you? What'd you think of how we were introduced to these two? Hannah, you are muted. Red 5, you're muted.
That is, I blame Joel
Damn
Davis.
it.
Joel Davis was covering
it's all right. Yeah.
the thing where you can see if you're muted or not.
Yeah, we had a comment on the screen. Yeah, that would
hilarious. What the hell did I say? Yes, the introduction of these characters, very well done. I think the kind of mystery of them was established very well. Very like kind of intense. They very pensive. Like Baylan's very pensive. He's got a lot of thoughts. Shin's kind of a bit loose, and she kind of looks a little crazy. Like it's just very well established characters in terms of like look and environment around them. And specifically, like, come on, that opening scene of them arriving on that ship and doing like a Rogue One-esque, march down the hallway, slicing everyone up was pretty epic. I think they introduced these two new characters very well. If that's something I could probably comment on, I don't think Star Wars has like really nailed the introductions of new characters well. I think they nailed it here. Like I think about characters like in The Mandalorian, like Axe Woves and the other girl, or even some of the kind of just I mean, these characters are obviously bigger in Ahsoka, but there's just some other characters in Star Wars TV shows where I feel like they haven't nailed this, like the intro of them, and like these are who these people are. Where I feel like they really got it down with these two. So really cool. I think they did it well.
Sometimes I wonder with some of the characters, especially in the Mandoverse shows, if like they're intended to be one-offs, and then Jon Favreau or Dave Filoni, whoever goes, oh, you know what, that character is really cool. Let's bring him back and let's give him a bigger role. Think of Mithril, think of Axwoves, think of the characters like that. And so that's why they get kind of lame introductions. Whereas these two, they knew, and we knew they were going to be
so true on another level.
Yeah, not just to this show, but to the future down the line. And so I think that's why they get such a badass introduction. Ben, over to you. Your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think from the get-go, you get that these guys are a serious threat. I think it's just interesting in this era to throw in two more lightsaber-wielding, force-wielding characters that are not Jedi. They're not Sith. They're something else. And maybe the only thing that I don't like about these characters is the fact that I still don't know really who they are and like what their deal is in regards to like what is, because Balin does later on the season goes like, oh, you're not a Jedi, you're supposed to be something different. I'm just like, what is that? Something else, tell me. And you know, it's this whole thing. So, but like you get this opening scene, and you know, I love that it's kind of the inverse of the Phantom Menace. Two Jedi showing up and wrecking house, and you know, and presenting themselves as this kind of this negotiation type of thing of, do we just want to go see the prisoner, and then that turning off, and then you have these idiots running the New Republic. This things is just going to like walk up and just like, you know, wag his finger in his face, and everything's going to be all right. So, but I do love that. I love this whole exchange. And then obviously you have, you know, Balin going. I think the might of Balin, the absolute, I mean, credit where credit's due. We'll talk. We've talked a lot. We'll talk all day about Ray Stevenson and his, not just his acting ability, but his presence, just like his stature. He's a massive presence on screen. And I think you get that opening scene where he's just wrecking house with these, you know, New Republic officers, and you know, it's just it's an incredible thing. Obviously echoes of Rogue One and Vader, but really, really cool. And I think it sets them up to be okay. Who are they? What are they doing? All this kind of stuff. Get you guys asking the right questions, because as much as people be like, oh, we don't know who these characters are, these Harrison, Dula, and Ezra, and all these people, we don't know who they are because we haven't watched the TV show. None of us know who these characters are, and we're all coming in blind. So that's interesting.
Yeah. I think they did a really good job at setting these characters up for the future. I know we won't. Yeah. I know where there's more to talk about as we get down the line. But it's clear that both of them were planned at the very least to have significant roles in, you know, a second or future seasons of Ahsoka, as well as the whatever other future stories there may be in the Mandoverse, the movie, etc. And we're kind of left, all of that is left in doubt due to the, you know, the very untimely and tragic passing of Ray Stevenson. But I think like they in season one, they kind of serve as, you know, plot devices to get the character, to sort of chase the characters from here to there, and kind of add that extra level of threat, so that it's not just Ahsoka and Sabine going, do you think Thrawn's over there? Well, let's go look over there. It's not over there. All right, try over here. How about over here? No, not over there. Did you check under there?
Anybody seen a big blue guy with red eyes?
Exactly. So they serve their purpose well in this season, but they you know, Filoni layered them with enough you know, questions and intrigue and mystery that it was evident that it was going to be picked up in future seasons. The last couple of shots of the finale, you know, convey that.
I just got to interject here with a thought that I'm forgetting. Is this opening scene? It was a weird sentence, wasn't it? With this opening scene with the New Republic, was this the one where that kind of reptile bird man was the first officer?
Yeah.
You know that alien species that's got kind of the big head.
Yeah.
The eyes are kind of a bit more up, and he's got the beak. Was he the first officer?
There's the
scene?
There's the like older dude who's like he's got that chair that he's like really leaned back in, and he's
Yeah.
like, I want to see them for myself.
Yes. Yeah.
And he has his number 2, and she kind of takes over.
But there was another guy standing
an Ishi
there of
Tib
that species, right?
There's maybe is it an Ishi Tib? I know there's an Ishi Tib on. Do you even know what an Ishi Tib is? I don't even know if I know what an Ishi Tib is, but I'm pretty sure.
Ishi Tib. That's
I'm
what
pretty
it
sure
was,
it's yeah. It was the one. I think he was on the ship when they show up at Peridia, not Peridia, but the other planet later on in episode 5, 6, 5. Yeah.
Unidentified Ishi Tib.
I've only seen this episode like 5 times. I should know this.
Favorite character, unidentified.
Oh yeah, this was in part 5. Sorry, this was in part 5. Yeah.
All right. So we'll get Alien Birdman in a few weeks.
There's a Mon Cal.
I'll bring him up later.
There's an adorable Mon Cal with a little helmet that barely fits over his big giant head in the hangar that I'm assuming gets immediately killed.
Oh yeah.
Oh, love it.
Classic.
The other thing I wanted to mention about Shin and Balin is just the look and design of these characters, because everything about them just conveys that they're, somewhere between Jedi and Sith. We think of Sith characters, they tend to be decked out all in black. Darth Vader, Darth Maul, Kylo Ren, all of them, they like black. They wear a lot of black. We think of Jedi characters, there tends to be a lot of sort of earthy browns and that sort of thing, and then a white robe, especially once you get into the High Republic stuff. With these guys, they're decked out in a lot of gray. Shin in particular is all decked out almost entirely in gray, but then they still have the kind of off red lightsabers, but Shin also has the Padawan braid. There's this weird quasi Jedi, and just the way Balin talks about the Jedi, you can tell that the look of these characters mirrors how they feel about the Jedi, that there's stuff there that they admire, that they want to take from, but also, they embrace the dark side in a way that Obi-Wan Kenobi and Mace Windu wouldn't recommend. So I thought that was just, we didn't really talk about it last week, but we lost the costume designer Shauna Trippick, who did so much great work on Mando and Ahsoka, and I think this is a testament to her work and her understanding of these characters, that they stand out so strikingly in this series. All right, let's talk about Ahsoka. Ahsoka herself.
Wait, Ahsoka's in this show.
I know, right? It's our third time seeing Rosario as Ahsoka, after Mandalorian and Book of Boba, and of course now she's kind of taken the lead. Hannah, I'll throw it to you. What did you think of Rosario's performance as Ahsoka at this point in her life?
Yeah, I am on Team Rosario big time. I love her portrayal of Ahsoka. I think someone actually said this on my channel the other day, and I actually really like it in a positive way, is that Ashley Eckstein is Ahsoka. But then Rosario Dawson can be Ahsoka. So, I think, our relationship with this character is so deeply intertwined with Ashley Eckstein's portrayal and voice of her. But I really think Rosario, probably no one could do it better than Rosario's done it. I think it's just, she's done such a good job putting in the effort and energy into understanding this character, and that comes across on screen. And to be honest, if she hadn't, I think that would have come across on screen as well. So, but you can tell in her movements, her shoulders, her smile, her expression, everything, I found really, really Ahsoka centric. So, I love this casting. I think she did it so well, and the actual just overall look of Ahsoka, they have, I think, definitely tweaked her head tails quite a bit. In a positive way. I think they look a lot more natural and actually quite a bit more just suited to size and color. I think everything was just flawless, and even down to just her orange skin. I was like, this that doesn't look like face paint. Like, it doesn't look like face paint. It's so seamless. So, yeah, actually, one of the things I was going to bring up with this premiere is just talking about, just everything is very well done. Very, very well done. Costuming, the makeup, and obviously just Ahsoka specifically. I think the look of her is perfect. I probably couldn't change anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And she brings like it's so interesting to think about her in comparison to Ashley's performance, because it's very different, but it's similar.
Yes. Yeah.
Ashley was playing Ahsoka at a point when Ahsoka's very bubbly. She's very young. She's very she's snippy. She snips. That's what she is. That's who she is, I should say. And this is a character who has kind of life has kind of taken all the joy out of her. You know, like she's been through just so many sort of horrific, traumatic things that she couldn't really be that same character. That the performance couldn't be the same. And so what Rosario does so well is she manages to keep that core of who Ahsoka is, because I think Ahsoka still believes a lot of the same things she did as a young Jedi, but she goes about them in a different way, and it feels different, but it feels like a continuation. I think that's the best thing I could possibly say about anybody playing Ahsoka at this point in their life that isn't Ashley Eckstein, because you know it doesn't feel different, doesn't feel wrong. And that was what I was always worried about with having someone else play this part, was would it still feel like the character we knew, because we're taking away the one quote unquote real thing about Ahsoka, which was her voice. And now that that's gone, can the character still work? And it does. She does. Absolutely. 100%. So I was very, very pleased to see that over the course of the series. And later on in the series, as we'll talk about, we get a little bit of the old Ahsoka back. And Rosario does an excellent job there too. Chris, over to you. Your thoughts on Ahsoka at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think I haven't fully paired the Rosario Ahsoka with the Ashley Ahsoka in my mind yet. I think I still have to go through some mental gymnastics of, yes, this is the same character, because, you know, it's just, I don't know, it's tough for me to do that. I mean, I had that same trouble with, you know, the young Han in the Han movie. Same thing, where there's only a couple of scenes and a couple of frames where I'm like, oh, that's Han Solo. And then other than that, it was like, you know, it kind of hit on and off. But with that being said, I still think that she plays a great character. And I think that, you know, the show's great, and her role, the way the character is written in the show and performed in the show is fantastic. And I just think she plays such an interesting role. She kind of reminds me of Qui-Gon Jinn a lot in this at this age that she's at now. Because like, if you look at kind of like the older masters and like wise Jedi and Force user characters in Star Wars, you know, there's a lot of them have a lot of flaws that really affect the people around them. Like Obi-Wan, for example, a lot of flaws, and he's like straight up lying to Luke Skywalker. and then Yoda, you know, he went through these whole trials about what his flaws were. And had to go through all that stuff. And who knows if, you know, all of that really subsided. He kind of took himself out of things soon after that. But what's interesting about Ahsoka is it actually is an example of a character who's become kind of like this grand master character, who doesn't have too many flaws. And I think her relationship with Sabine is one thing that if they've presented to add a little bit of color there, to add a little bit of texture to something where she is kind of a bit of you know, a little bit more of a perfect character than some at this point. Now it took her a while to get there, but so, you know, it's really interesting dynamics for this show to kind of present her in this way of, you know, she's a really solid character, a very stable character. You kind of know where she's going to stand about things. You don't really have a question about what she's necessarily going to do, but there's still those little kind of struggles she's dealing with. And I think the one thing that's new for her is just well, she now hasn't gone through the process of having an apprentice and that apprentice becoming a master themselves. And that's kind of the one thing that seems left for her to do, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm. Ben, your thoughts?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think maybe that was part of, I think I've adapted pretty well to Rosario's Ahsoka. I mean, given that one of my favorite, if not my favorite episode of The Mandalorian is The Jedi. And I think I was, even though going into that episode, I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. I came out of it going like, okay, I'm bought into this character. I was not, I'm still conflicted about some of the recasts, but every one of them has proceeded to win me over. And Ahsoka is no different. And I think as going into this show, I think I was like, I saw, there's chatter online. Some of it's fair, some of it's very unfair. But the general the vibe I was getting is like, Rosario's, she's kind of just, kind of sitting around crossing her arms, scowling a lot. And, she's not very happy-go-lucky. She's not like old Ahsoka. And to your point of just like, yeah, of course she's not like old Ahsoka. But if you watch the series from beginning to the end, that was a deliberate choice. It was a deliberate choice to... Was that?
And it's almost like people go on journeys and have character arcs. And, if we judge a character based on what we see in the very opening parts of the story and don't allow for them to grow and evolve, then we'll miss the point of the story entirely and just be miserable, grumpy people.
I'm flabbergasted that you even suggest such a thing. But it is this ultimate thing of just like, yeah, it's all part of the journey. It's what they were trying to do. It was a conscious decision on Rosario's part, and I'm sure she was directed to do that, but probably also in tandem to portray Ahsoka in a certain way, and then end with her. I love, there's so many great moments of her smiling and laughing in the last few episodes that are like, okay, she's clearly changed. Episode 5, huge thing in her. We'll get to it, obviously, but this story, this show overall is telling us the story, which started back in The Mandalorian of her still being shell-shocked about what happened to Anakin and not getting over that. And, that's part of the journey of the show. So, I'm glad you can watch this and clear. I love it when a character you can specifically see this character started here and they ended here. And, that's Ahsoka's journey so far. That's great. And she had that in Clone Wars. She had it in Rebels. So it's great to see that continuing.
Speaking of Rebels, I have my next note here says live action from Lothal. I just thought I'd share that with you all. We get this.
Wow.
Okay. Can't tell if Ben is mocking me or if he actually found that funny.
Delayed reaction.
But we get we see Lothal, which is this planet we spent hours and hours and hours on Star Wars Rebels. We see it in live action, and not only do we see it in live action, we see a lot of the characters we got to know on Lothal in live action. We'll talk about Hera and Chopper in a little bit. We'll talk about Sabine, but we also see Ryder Azadi and Seekell. Those were other moments to me that was like, whoa. I wasn't expecting that.
Crazy.
I loved Clancy Brown just playing another character in the Mandoverse as he does, and Seekell, another one of those unexpected surprises that came into this show. Ben, I'll throw it right back to you. What did you think of seeing Lothal in live action, seeing this planet back in Star Wars, and also throw in your thoughts on the introduction to our new Sabine Wren?
Yeah. So first of all, with Lothal, it's funny. I mean, from the get-go, knowing that Ahsoka was going to be Ahsoka and was going to be following up from Rebels, obviously Lothal was already in the mix, but I still was taken aback by just seeing Lothal in all its glory on this planet that has been so prominent in animation, just suddenly brought to life in live action. It looks beautiful. It looks great. I think that's things, and starting off with just giving us this is the fruits of their labor. This is the fruits of them honoring what happened and what Ezra did years and years ago, which literally has been years and years ago, but us watching this show, it's been years since we've seen Ezra. that's the funny thing about all this. And they don't specify actually how much time has passed ever in the show, but we know it's been a while. And it's just it's wonderful. I think it's great that obviously some of you have seen it in person. That wall behind them, it's crazy that they just 1-to-1. It's the same exact art style, but it's now in live action, and it's just crazy. Flabbergasted to see Seekell. Like, that was the deep cut. Like, I was watching reactions, people were like not catching Seekell, and I was like, oh my god, it's Seekell, I know that guy. It's great to see that they remember that character, and just great. And then we have Sabine Wren, and I was like, I don't know about this, I don't know about this, another recast, blah 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 blah. And then getting to this, and Natasha Liobardizzo blew me away. I think she's easily the standout performance in this show. She absolutely is Sabine. She owned the role and gave one of the best performances I've ever seen in Star Wars. I think it's just, she was so incredible. And the journey she goes on. And I have a few nitpicks of just oh, you have a Mandalorian and she loves explosions and she loves art, and she didn't do either one of those things in this show. That's the problem. But I still love Sabine's role in this show and what we learn about her, and then just where we start with her here is incredible. I think I can't wait to see more of her, obviously, but I think this first episode and the second episode was this great, really good introduction to the character and gave her a lot to do.
That was very eloquent, Ben Bott. Chris, over to you. Your thoughts on Lothal and the Sabine intro.
Yeah, that was definitely one of those nostalgic moments where you're like, oh my gosh, we're seeing this again. And I don't know if it's necessarily, I have this thing where I personally like seeing animated things in live action. I don't know how other people on this podcast feel about that. But I really like it. But even then, even if you don't look at it that way, you're still seeing it again anyway. So I think that was really cool. I think that's what I like the most about it, is just taking us back to 2014 was kind of cool. That's right. Rebels has been on the Rebels premiered 9 years ago.
Don't do this math. Don't do this.
9 years.
Don't. I don't like this math. This math is bad.
Those kids are in third grade now.
I was Ezra's age when it came out.
That's crazy. And now you have a beard that's super long.
I know.
But you gave it to Ben right before we
started
that's streaming again.
My beard. So
that has been growing since 2014. But yeah, and then.
So quick.
And then as far as Sabine is concerned, I feel like if they had it doesn't make any sense to call this show Sabine, because Ahsoka is definitely a more top build character than Sabine, being in more shows than Sabine, and you have that backdoor pilot to the Ahsoka show from the Mandalorian. But really, to be honest, if it weren't for those external factors, if this show was called Star Wars Sabine and not Star Wars Ahsoka, no one would have noticed, because she very much is as much the protagonist of this show as Ahsoka is. In my opinion,
I think you could call this show The Mandalorian, and it would work.
That also would work with Sabine being a Mandalorian. That's a very good point. This could just be Mando. Honestly, if they
Ahsoka Bean.
Mando season 7, I don't know where we're at.
Ahsoka Bean is my suggestion.
Ahsoka Bean.
Ahsoka Bean.
Yes.
That sounds like a Hasbro product from 7 years ago. They're like, we're bringing out a line of Star Wars beans, and we got the Ahsoka Bean here.
Yes.
Sabine Bean.
Mighty Beans, but
Mighty
Star
Beans.
Wars.
So yes, the introduction of Lothal and Sabine in the Ahsoka show was pretty cool. And it also reminded me, the pacing of the Sabine intro reminded me of the Rey intro in The Force Awakens. I had major flashbacks to that while I was watching that. I'm like, this is very similar. So it's kind of domestic, she's going a better life, kind of a similar vibe.
Yeah, just with more electric guitars.
I love the music in this show. I love it.
Yeah,
Let me
it's
just go through
pretty
it
great.
right now.
Yep.
Anna,
My turn.
your
Great.
turn.
Yay.
Yay.
Yay. Yeah, no, I don't actually have anything fantastically new to add to this, what we're all saying. I totally agree. Great casting. We did have a lot of focus on Sabine. I do have some comments, but I'm sure I'm probably going to mention this in kind of episodes to come. I loved Ahsoka. I loved Sabine. I am one of those people that is not fully on board with Master Apprentice yet. I just couldn't fully believe in it. I couldn't fully believe in it. I don't know what it was. I think by the end of the show, I appreciate it. And I think one of the things, I think one of you said it before, one of the key things that Ahsoka needs to have this learned experience about is having an apprentice. And I think when we get to, obviously, the flashbacks and her relationship with Anakin and all of what that means, so much of that is she has to learn about herself through having an apprentice. I totally am on board with the storyline. Totally on board with Sabine being involved with this group and being here and doing all these things with Ahsoka. I just can't fully believe the relationship there in terms of it is bizarre. We have to point it out. They didn't exchange any words directly alone to one another in Rebels. And then the next step we see and experience is them being very, very close to the point they've been so close they've already had a falling out. And now it's the rekindling. I can't fully get into that. And still with the show, I just couldn't fully get into that. To be honest.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, that's something we talked a little bit about in the lead up to the show. That this isn't. Some people were joking this was Rebel season 5. This was more like this is Rebel season 6 or even season 7.
Yes. What happened?
A lot happens. I like the idea that, between a Star Wars movie, time passes, the characters have gone on adventures and they have things that they can call back to that we haven't seen. That bounty hunter we ran into on Ord Man's Hell sure changed my mind and blah, 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 blah. Things like that. This is almost like going from A New Hope to Empire Strikes Back. Not to Empire Strikes, to Return of the Jedi. You do go from A New Hope to Empire Strikes Back. That's how you
pretty
do it.
logical.
No, it's like going from A New Hope to Return of the Jedi. There's a big chunk that is missing here. And, I do think for me, I was able to buy into it, but I will not understand anyone else not being able to, because it's a lot to ask you to it's a lot to ask the audience to believe happened in the off-screen wars rather than on screen.
It's like if we had A New Hope and then the next movie, Han is the master to Wedge Antilles. It's what happened? What? There's no logical steps in between here. What happened? Oh, anyway.
So the thing that I'm interested in is this like a George Lucas thing that George Lucas would have done with these characters? I think that's one of the things that we feel weird about it with, because I know that, Sabine is not a George Lucas character. That's a Dave Filoni and Rebels production crew character. But Ahsoka is very much obviously a George Lucas character. And so I just wonder if George would have taken a non-force sensitive Mandalorian character and then have that character be trained in being a Jedi or being a Force user by Ahsoka. It just seems like something George wouldn't do to me. And I think that's one of the reasons why it feels kind of incongruous with the rest of Star Wars. At least with a character like Finn, I think there were some hints that at least some of the writers wanted him to go to become Force sensitive. It was a little shaky with how that was executed and on screen, but at least there's a bit of foreshadowing with Finn that okay, maybe there is some innate ability that he has. But I mean, with Sabine, I really feel like it's kind of just like, man, if you squeeze the apple hard enough, lemon will come out of it. Lemonade will come out of the apple. Like that's what it feels like, and it feels weird to me. And so I feel the same way as you, Hannah. Like I don't completely buy it, and it does. Yeah, I don't know.
Ben, where do you come down on this?
See, I don't know. I don't know because I'm like, I have so many mixed feelings because on one hand, I think that was one of my sticking points for these first 2 episodes of just like, it doesn't really like, on one hand, you have like the conversation between Huang and Sabine, and Huang's basically, telling her like, you're the least qualified person in the galaxy to be a Jedi. And, and the other hand of just like, and then having Ahsoka and Sabine reconnect and having all this implied history of, they tried to be things. And then you have Baylan saying, you're looking for the former apprentice of Ahsoka Tano and all this kind of stuff going to Lothal. And so it's all this implied history, and not enough people are, into my opinion, are questioning it. It feels like Ezra is like a good reaction when they meet, and Ezra goes, "What? Ahsoka's training you? You're Ahsoka's apprentice?" Like that thing. That's the appropriate reaction that everyone's having. Is just like, wait, you that's interesting. And obviously that kind of more explains of just like this is unconventional, but they kind of treat it in this episode as if it's more conventional. And I'm not sure how I feel about it. I think it could have been a little more descriptive. There could have been a few more lines of dialogue that kind of go a long way of like, yes, Sabine is not a qualified candidate, but then you further along, you have Ahsoka saying these things. You have Ahsoka saying,
well,
I don't need her to be a Jedi. I need her to be herself. I like.
Well, and you have Huang in the next episode, like in episode 2, saying to her, like, of all the Jedi Padawans I've seen in over my hundreds of years of existence, your aptitude for the Force is the worst. Like he's straight up telling her, like, you probably wouldn't be a Jedi under normal circumstances. But there's something that Ahsoka sees in her that makes her believe that that she could be. And again, that this could hit back at that problem of they never said a word to each other in Rebels. Like if it was Kanan that was like, you know what, I bet we could make Sabine into a Jedi, because they spent so much time together, because they literally trained together with lightsabers. That I think makes sense. Ahsoka, yeah, there's a missing piece here. What does Ahsoka see in Sabine? I think we as the audience can guess, because we've seen Sabine over 4 seasons, and we can kind of go, okay, maybe there's something there. I can kind of see it. But where was that moment with Ahsoka? And that does feel like that's maybe something that's missing from this story. And Chris, you brought up the thing, is it a George? Would this be a George thing? And I think I agree with you. No. But I think this is somewhere where Star Wars is moving a little bit beyond George. And this is, very much George's student. So it's someone who's thought about Star Wars the way George has thought about Star Wars for a long time. And the fact that he's the one going, no, let's try something else, I think is very, very interesting to me. I don't have an issue with midichlorians, but I don't love the idea, and I've never loved the concept, that only special people get to be Jedi. I've never liked that. And I think if you go back to Star Wars, 1977 Star Wars, that's not there in the movie. Luke is everybody. Luke is every kid growing up on their own, wishing they were special, wishing there was something they could do. And then he gets that opportunity. But there's nothing in that movie that says, you, Luke Skywalker, are the only person who can do this. That comes later. It does come later in Empire and Jedi, but it's not there in the original movie. And something that I've wanted Star Wars to do for a long time is to open up what it means to be a Jedi. And yeah, midichlorians exist. Midichlorians still count. We had whole plot lines in Mandalorians about Mandalorian about M counts and needing special blood and all that sort of thing. But I think of it as, the Force is like any other skill. There are some people who are just innately good at it. There are just some people, like, you think about any sport, any artistic talent, music, whatever. There's some people that they can just, they get a baseball bat, they can hit a home run instantly. They get a guitar, suddenly it seems like they can just start playing it. They have an easier time finding the notes. There are some people like that, but other people can work at it. And okay, maybe you can't be the very best, but you can get pretty good. And I like that idea. I like that idea a lot. And I like that Ahsoka has opened up the Force in that way, that you don't have to come from a special bloodline. You don't have to have a massive amount of midichlorians. If you just want it and you work at it and you train at it, it is achievable. Again, you're not going to be Yoda. You're not going to be Anakin, but you can get pretty far.
I think that point, to me, I can't, because I agree with everything you just explained, but I actually think that point of if you work hard enough, if you train, if you focus, if you set your mind to it, you can achieve it. I think that point would be hit harder if Sabine, and this is kind of, again, this is jumping forward a little bit. If she didn't have the Force, if she didn't actually in the end use the Force, to me, I don't really have any just default, she shouldn't use it. But I'm like, in the terms of the storyline, I feel like it's more impactful the fact that she's got a bit, everyone's got a bit of midichlorians. She's not the greatest, but her training, almost like she trains as a Jedi. She does the lightsaber training. She does that kind of stuff. She can't use the Force, but she's the absolute best that she can be, and that actually achieves something. I felt like that would have been a better storyline. That she never used the Force, but I think everyone's going to have a different take on that.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, to me, I do just like the idea that this mystical power exists and that anybody can tap into it. Because I go back to Star Wars, like drop A New Hope from the title and just go back to Star Wars. Like Obi-Wan says, the Force is an energy field that surrounds us and penetrates us. It resides in all living things. Like that to me says, anybody can tap into that. But then, all the other stuff has come along where we have to, run circles around to get to that point.
I think one of the other things too that is a deeper issue here is the idea that sometimes Star Wars can be very much about destiny and very much about fate and very much like these things are going to happen and these people are meant to do these things. And then at other times it's very much like you're in control of your own destiny. Your choices determine your reality. And I think it's very interesting how you have both of those messages coming in. And I think it confuses things like this because I think the idea, probably the real idea behind Luke being having special abilities that other people might not was tied to the idea that it was his destiny to do what he did, and it was Anakin's destiny to do what he did because he was the chosen one, and so he had these special abilities as well, and then that's why Leia ended up with them as well because she's part of that family. My father has it, my sister has it, and so I think I think Star Wars more recently has, I think more every year that passes, it gets further away from this concept of destiny. I feel like it gets more to this concept of you really can determine your outcome. I think the stories of Rey and Ben really showed like, okay, you can just do whatever's in your heart. That ends up being, and your choices actually really do matter and have different outcomes. And there wasn't really any real fate necessarily there for either of those characters necessarily, just their connection together. So I think I think that's where we're at now, and that's why things like this are happening. Because it's not like Sabine has this destiny to do this thing. So now it's more just like, all right, it's now her how she chooses to go about things, what her perception is going to determine, what her accomplishments are. And I think that's probably the deeper thing philosophically that's going on here beyond just the whole concept of science and skills.
Yeah. George was always a very destiny oriented guy in his storytelling. I think he follows, he really he studied Joseph Campbell's writings, and a lot of Joseph Campbell was studying mythology from around the world, and there's a lot of chosen one myths. And I think George followed that up and put that into his story and said, I want to have a chosen one character. And that becomes Anakin and Luke, kind of, sort of. And that gets us to where we are. But, and if Star Wars was going to stay as 6 movies, I think that's fair. Leave it as is. Yeah, there was a chosen one who saved the day. But now that it's like expanded into every which way, I think it kind of has to move beyond that, and it has to embrace the, you are the master of your own destiny kind of mentality, because otherwise you're just having another chosen one every so often. We've seen the chosen one story, I guess, is what I'm getting at. We've seen that. Now let's take a swing down this storyline. And I love Huang's, like, his back and forth with Sabine in the second episode when they're in the hospital, where he's like, have you been keeping up with your lightsaber training? And he's like trying to he's calling her out on all of her excuses. He even says that's an excuse to her at one point. And then later says, the only person whose time you're wasting is yourself, or the only time you're wasting is your own. I love that he's shoving her. He's like, do it. Come on. Why if you don't do this, you're the only one to blame. And I think that makes for a more interesting story now that we've had the chosen one story already told in Star Wars. I'm sure we'll come back to this. This will come back many a times. Good. And we'll debate and discuss the attempted moving of cups, the actual pushing of people, and lightsabers being called, and all that stuff as we continue.
I'm gonna say that it doesn't matter if I secretly am destined to be a Jedi, or if you can choose your own adventure. I'm still gonna try to grab the remote by going like this every so often, and I won't stop until it happens.
There you go. Just gotta keep meditating. Gotta keep meditating.
I'm gonna be in the hospital at 120 years old.
And of course, that's when it'll happen.
That's when it'll kick in. Yeah.
Right.
I did it. Oh, my heart.
I did. Hey, nurse, I moved the remote. Sure you did. Good job. Yeah, sure you did. All right, let's change the channel. Been watching Star Wars again. Thinks he's Sabine.
I love my Justin Bieber hosted Price is Right back on.
All right, so the MacGuffin through this episode, we haven't really talked about. It's a map, and we learned that it's a map to another galaxy. What was, Ben? Let's go to you. Let's go to you, Ben. What was your reaction to Star Wars officially opening up the universe to the concept of galaxies outside of the known one that we've spent all of our time in so far?
Yeah, I mean, extremely fascinating, and made me be on the edge of my seat, for, I don't have no idea what's going on.
There's just these
should I even say anything?
There's just these extended pauses before you start speaking, Ben. I don't know if it's a connection thing or if it's just you taking the time to think, or a little bit of both. But it's incredible. And we're always like, is he frozen? Do we have to hit the Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy music? Like, what are we?
I get distracted by finding out that there's vegan Pizza Hut in Australia. And then I thought I might have missed somebody asking me a question. But So I was like,
Oh,
wait,
wow.
is someone gonna answer, or is that on me?
This is amazing.
So, other galaxies.
So good.
Yeah, I mean, I was just incredibly fascinated by this concept, and really, fascinated by the fact that they were willing to do this. I mean, because this is a bold thing to do, a bold concept to introduce of just like, oh yeah, there's other galaxies, there's other stuff happening. The Star Wars galaxy, like our own galaxy, is infinite. There's other things besides just, as massive as it is, there's always more to discover. And I think that was just interesting. And then obviously tying in as we get into more in the series, but obviously it's something that it's just only hinted at in this episodes, is the idea of like this connection to the Night Sisters and the Night Sisters of Dathomir. All that stuff is fascinating and had me just like from going up to that episode far, far away. I'm just like, what are we going to see? I have no idea. I'm so fascinated. But ultimately, I think it does enough to kind of whet your appetite and really just goes to an interesting place. I think that, I think we need this. We need this in Star Wars of just like, obviously I want a different kind of lightsaber in my Star Wars. I like a different use of the Force. I like these new things, but I think we need these kind of things to shake up our experience and say, okay, what you knew about Star Wars now is completely different. Now there's something that you have no idea. There's another galaxy. And I love to hear people speculating about like, oh, is there the Force? Is the Force in this new galaxy? Are they going to go there and they're not going to have the Force and stuff like that? Like these crazy things and be like, yes, that's crazy. But also, yes, this is fascinating that we're in this headspace of anything can happen. I love that. I love that this Star Wars almost 45 years later, we are introducing new concepts that can just literally expand the galaxy that much more and make it so that now we're in this place where, we're especially at the end. I keep trying to stop myself from talking about the rest of the episode. And I'm trying to stay focused here. It's really
So
hard.
I don't think you have to. I don't think you have to stay focused. If something bears mentioning, it bears mentioning.
Yeah. So, but just that idea of we are going to another place. We are going to a different galaxy, and what is there? What are the questions there? And there's still so many questions. Even after I've seen the whole series, I still have so many questions.
That's a good show that still raises questions.
That's true. I'm gonna jump in here.
Go for it.
I have thoughts because I don't know. I actually probably didn't speak to anyone about this before the show. I was like super anti other galaxy. Like super like, I don't want to go somewhere else. And everyone's like, oh, but we've seen it. It's like, there's 1,000 freaking planets here. We haven't seen it all. Come on. Like I was super, super anti going somewhere else. I thought it would be too weird. I'm not even a Marvel person, but I'm like, this seems too Marvel-y for me. I don't know. I was just like super like bummer about it. But then it's kind of cool. I think they set it up pretty well. I think they did it well, and kind of having this kind of time being like, we got this map somewhere else, and that was quite a core thing. I think it's good that they just didn't go, let's on the ship and off we go. It was kind of a bit of a thing that to get the map, figure out how to get there, but and then the subsequent episodes of that whole journey, I think it turned out okay. But I was actually super skeptical about it. I was like super anti other galaxy.
Interesting.
I was too, honestly. I was
really,
too.
yeah.
I was sort of like, like you said, there's thousands, if not millions, of planets. Can we just have somewhere hidden that we haven't heard of before? Now, admittedly, they've done that a couple of times recently with Exegol and Actu, and like there's been a few instances of like, oh, there's just this part of the galaxy that nobody's been to before. So yeah, okay, fair enough. Shake it up a little bit, make it outside the galaxy, and like I'm okay with it. And this is maybe jumping ahead a little bit, and we'll get into a little bit later on. But Peridia is just such a boring planet That is like, why couldn't that? If we're gonna go to a different galaxy,
oh my god,
show us something new and interesting.
I
Don't give
thought-
us another boring planet.
I thought it was going to be like a psychedelic trip of like, we're going to go into this like space rock of like rainbows. Like, I just thought it was going to be nuts. But it was just like another bleak place. And I'm like, oh, dude, just keep it in the same galaxy for this.
So it's Earth. Again, we just wound up on Earth with bigger statues.
It's Earth in a couple of years.
Yeah.
Wait, I have a question. Does the Ahsoka show start with the a long time ago thing?
You know, I watched the episodes this week. I don't think it does.
I feel like it doesn't.
Yeah.
Because that would be a lie.
A long time ago in some galaxies far, far away.
So that's interesting. But I mean, technically speaking, there's more galaxies typically than there are star systems within any given galaxy, which is kind of mind-boggling to think of. So it would be weird from like a science fiction point of view if you have faster than light travel or as fast as light travel, definitely faster than light travel in Star Wars.
0.5 past light speed.
That's right. Which knowing how that works, that's probably not a correct number. But anyway, that would take a while to get across the galaxy at that speed. I mean, yeah, given the science fiction and how like the hyperspace works, it really does make sense that they would be able to get to other galaxies. And it also makes sense that just a galaxy in itself would be easily navigable. So you would potentially, it'd be rare to have an area that no one knows about. So I don't know, from a storytelling point of view, from science fiction point of view, it makes sense. I don't have a problem with it. And one of the biggest reasons why I don't is it's been established that there's been times in Star Wars canon where this has been established. A lot of it's been relegated to legends, but it's typically, yeah. I mean, even with Star Wars Rebels, I feel like there was that kind of feeling that's where Thrawn went. Maybe it was just because of legends creeping into our perception of it. But
Rebels sort of ends with a big sort of mystery as to where they've gone, and that, you know, if that was your speculation, you were right. Congratulations.
I mean, I think it's just baked into just the legends and all of that stuff. Like I just assumed that for some reason. So it would have been weird to me if that wasn't what happened.
Yeah, the Yuzon Vong were like a extra galactic threat.
Yeah,
they came inside the known galaxy. So like, it has been addressed before.
Because you think if they're sent to somewhere inside the galaxy, they're gonna figure out a way back a lot sooner. It doesn't have as much weight to it. If you're just lost on some planet somewhere in the same galaxy, you're gonna figure out probably how to like fix your hyperdrive but if you can't use the normal hyperdrive, that makes sense.
I think the simple fact that there has been so many quote unquote hidden planets in the Star Wars galaxy, going from Lyrasan to Exegol to most recently Tanalorr in Jedi Survivor, having these like hidden planets that you can only get to them for certain things. I mean, even like you could say the same thing about Kessel. It's like it's kind of hidden. You got to go through certain passages to get there, and it's kind of treacherous. You've done that trope enough. Let's come up with something different. And I agree with Chris. Like the mechanics of it, I think added more drama to it. Is the fact that you can't just, it's not just hidden. You can't just get to it with a normal hyperdrive. You have to have this giant hyperspace being. You have to know exactly where to go. And the things of just like, you know, with Valen's only, like if your calculations are off even by little, you know, you're going to be lost in the void. You know, that adds more drama and interest to this. And just, you know, again, it's something new we haven't seen before. And logically speaking, yes, there would be other galaxies out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's taking the hidden planet trope and just cranking it up to 11 because it's a different galaxy. All right, I want to preface this next point by reiterating what I said off the top, which is that I really love these episodes. Thought they were great. They lived up to my expectations. The hype was real. Can we agree that Shin stabbing Sabine at the end of the first episode is the worst cliffhanger in all of Star Wars history.
Utterly unnecessary. Just utterly unnecessary.
It at best, it's really weird.
Yes. Yeah. It's like there was probably out of, I don't know the numbers for Ahsoka. How many people watched it? Like 500,000? I don't know. What's a realistic number? Is that a low or high number?
That's
I don't
too
know.
low. That's way too low.
Oh, how many people
14 million people watched the premiere.
14 million. Holy crap. That's like half of Australia. God damn. Anyway. Okay. Of that 14 million, probably like, I don't know. Geez, like 100 people like didn't know Sabine like lives after that. So there was, I can't do that math quickly enough. 99% of people being like, why?
Yeah.
In that moment being like, she's not going to die right now. Like actually, anyone who's seen the trailer for the show knows she doesn't die right now. So it was just weird. Just like if you want to have that dramaticness of like Shin is a baddie and kind of in terms of really baddie as in she's going to hurt someone.
Mm-hmm.
And Sabine isn't like up to par with her skill. If you want, like, because I think that's what they wanted to get across. Have her like, you know, cut her leg, cut her thigh, you know, maybe hurt her arm. You know, the classic, slice in my arm.
Yeah,
like,
the go-to way to, you know, incapacitate someone in Star Wars without killing them for decades was to slice off their hand. And somewhere along the line, we've moved away from that. And it's become like,
it was a tradition, damn it.
Yeah, it's become do something that should brutally murder the person, but they're fine a week later. Like, you know, it's the same thing. Like, I love The Force Awakens, but like, you know, the way Kylo slices up Finn's back, like that should kill a person. I'm glad Finn lived. Don't get me wrong.
It's perpetuating this argument. It's
slice off their arm.
The argument.
Slice off an arm, a leg, lose a limb. You know.
Like
again, it's like this thing like you were referring to earlier of just like you have weirdos online that are like Disney Star Wars sucks because blah, 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 and then they'll like every other like 99% of the time they're just saying random stupid crap, but then they will go, well, look at all these characters that survived mortal stab wounds in Disney Star Wars, and I'm like, okay, all right, you got me there. You're
actually the same thing.
Right. You a broken clock is right. Like there has been a few too many. We had Reva, we had Sabine. Now, there's been a lot of characters that have had really nasty lightsaber wounds, and there's a way you can do it. That's like, for example, Anakin and Obi-Wan for Count Dooku. Count Dooku had every right to just lop their heads off, but he wounded Obi-Wan for some reason. And like nicking him in the leg and the arm, so because you couldn't take off his hand.
So that's almost the opposite problem, where like they didn't go far enough in Attack of the Clones, because it's like, Obi-Wan, really? Those cuts look painful, but like that's gonna take you out completely,
right?
I mean, as a 10-year-old, I totally bought it.
Fair.
The stab thing, I totally agree. The stab thing, I'm on that side, being like, it's just insane. Like, it does, like, you look at a Qui-Gon, Sabine, Qui-Gon and Satine, like Satine, Duchess Satine, one stab, gone within 5 minutes, less than. Satine was gone in like 10 seconds. Qui-Gon, almost a minute, I would say as well. And then you have a Reva who, was it 2 stabs? 2 stabs.
It's at least
managed to,
that happened to her twice.
Walk around, get on a ship, fly to another planet, run after a kid, fight a kid.
It happened to her once, and it happened to the Grand Inquisitor once as well. Like, it's just Inquisitors are just built different in their stomachs. And like, if it's done for shock value, like that's really lazy. Like, you can get away with that once.
Yeah.
But when it's happening in every show,
triggered.
In every show, that's just lazy. So yeah, incapacitate the characters, lop off a leg, lop off an arm. Like, the characters are gonna just have to wear a glove. The actors are just gonna have to wear a glove for the rest of the series. That's fine. Like, make it clear that they've been wounded, that they're down and out. I get, from a story mechanics perspective, you have to get Sabine in a place where she can't go on the next adventure. Come up with something better than just stabbing her through the gut and having her survive. Because it's lazy. It's been done before, and don't do it as the cliffhanger, because we know she's gonna be in the next episode.
Yes,
I don't think anybody bought it.
Well, and I think there's something so great about, I think, thematically with the losing of a hand. We obviously had the reflectiveness between Luke and Anakin, them both losing their right hand. And that whole realizing this and Return of the Jedi and all this kind of stuff. But even now, like, I'll throw it even to the sequel trilogy of just like, yeah, Kylo didn't lose a hand, but he got a scar down his face. And that was reflective of the journey he was on, and the fact that you do get scars and you do bad things. And this happens, you make mistakes, and that becomes a lasting makes a lasting impression on you. I think there would be, I don't know. It's funny that Dave Filoni, being the student of George Lucas, didn't find a reason to like give Sabine a star, give Sabine something that's more meaningful than just like, oh, she's dead, and oh no, but she's alive, and here's a back to patch, and she's all well and good.
Yeah. Like they could have even tied something with what we're talking about here, with like the Mando kind of ragtag character of herself, like something like she hurts a shoulder and she has to like build her own like mechanical shoulder brace or something. You know what I mean? Like tie it to a character being this kind of rough character. They could have done a lot more creative things with it. Yeah. It was weird. Thankfully, we had the next episode start immediately afterwards, so we didn't have to spend a week going, she's not dead. I swear she's not dead. She's not dead. So I appreciated that. Man. So thank you. But also, boo. All right, a couple of other things. We're kind of moving towards the end of the second episode. We have not talked about Hera and Chopper yet. Great to see them back. We'll talk more, I'm sure, about Hera in the following episodes, especially in some of her back and forths with Mon Mothma and Jason. We'll get into that a little bit more, but that was great to see them looking like live action rebels as they should. I do want to talk a little bit about the Corellia stuff and the reveal that the New Republic is using these ex-Imperial workers to do all the stuff they're doing on Corellia, build new ships, tear down old ones, all that stuff. And lo and behold, ex-Imperials turn out to still be loyal to the Empire. We've seen a fair bit of life under the New Republic for ex-Imperials. We saw that in Mandalorian, on Coruscant. Here we see it on Corellia. Chris, why don't I throw this one to you? What have you thought about? What did you think about the way the ex-Imperials are sort of portrayed in this series?
Yeah, I mean, well, the whole thing is kind of interesting with the ex-Imperials in general, because it's like when you get rid of a government that has been there for decades, like you can't just expect everybody who works for that government to just stop doing their jobs, especially on the local level, because it's like, who's going to do them if they don't? There's obviously a lot of situations where the Imperials were doing a very bad job of managing things and being very abusive with their power, and there might have been some localized rebellions that were bolstered by the overall rebellion, and in those cases they're probably gone. But there's probably a lot of cases where there's got to be a lot of cases where there's Imperials that are actually managing things kind of okay, and it's kind of sustainable, and it would make sense that they would still be doing that and just not under direction of the Empire anymore, but they still have that administrative structure in place. It doesn't make sense to just rip that up just because, you know, the Emperor is gone, especially if they're very independent. So it's an interesting conundrum where it's like how those people are portrayed. It's going to probably range a lot. There's kind of heroes on both sides type situation is how I feel.
Yeah. Well, I mean, excuse me. In Mando, like I rewatched that episode today because I've been thinking about this for this week. Like we see, obviously the focus of that episode is Dr. Pershing and Elia Kane. And Pershing seems like he genuinely wants to do the right thing, even though the system kind of is preventing him from doing it in his way. Elia Kane, obviously still a bad guy, still an.
Would you like a drink of water, Dom? Would you like to have a sip of water?
I think I would.
That could help you out. I thought you were having a delay, but I was just like, no, that's just his physical throat.
Yeah, my physical throat was doing to me what Ben's internet is doing to him.
He's buffering.
Yeah, he was buffering.
Buffering in life, so as I so often do. But we do see some like true like converts from the Empire to the New Republic in that episode. Is what I'm getting at. There are those like sort of friends that Pershing makes for like one scene. In this,
oh my god, yeah.
In this episode,
oh my god.
In this episode, we have people who still believe in the Empire, or at the very least, they still believe in being paid by Morgan Elsbeth. And Ahsoka and Hera kind of talk about it. Why are they still loyal? Ahsoka says it's not loyalty, it's greed. But that dude very clearly says for the Empire. He doesn't say for Morgan Elsbeth. Doesn't say for money. He doesn't. He's like for the Empire. These guys seem like they're still true believers, and I don't really know where the stories are going with this. Chris, as you laid out, I think there's a lot of layered complexities to this. But I like that this is something that Star Wars is starting to explore. Because again, as 6 movies, you don't have to think about it. The Empire falls, everything's wonderful. Yay! All around good times. If the story continues, what do you do with all these guys? Because some of them were just there because it was convenient for them. But some of them truly believed. And how do you separate the true believers from the people who were just going about their lives? I don't know. I think it's an interesting question that they're exploring at least tangentially in these stories. That's all I have to say on that.
Yep, correct. Good stuff.
Good stuff. Yeah.
Good chat.
All right. Anything else anybody wants to bring up? I know there's a lot, and covering 2 episodes is a lot, but we could also. It is approaching that time, I think, for final thoughts and that sort of thing. Any other points?
Did we talk about Clancy Brown? Did I just black out when we talked about him?
We briefly mentioned him
because we talked about freaking Jai. What's his name?
Jai Cal kind of overshadowed Clancy Brown somehow.
somehow. What in the world does that happen? No, Clancy Brown. Holy crap! He's just Ryder. He's just Ryder. Like just freaking.
It's just him
in a mirror. It's just him. Just him. It's like wow, that's perfect. But yeah, no, I think that's everything.
All right. Well, in that case, let's go around the table one last time. Give some final thoughts and scores out of 10 for both episodes. Both episodes. I want to score for Master and Apprentice, and I want to score for Toil and Trouble. Ben, why don't you start us off again?
All right. So, as I said, these episodes have grown on me since I've been watching them and rewatching them. And for the first episode, I think good introduction, a little slow, but ultimately was necessary, I think, for the story and for the characters. Would have liked a little more exposition on just, Ahsoka and Sabine's relationship and the implied relationship that they had prior to this episode. But I think the following episodes do a good enough job of kind of fixing it, but it doesn't take away from the fact that when I first watched this, I was, genuinely confused and kind of put off by how this episode was portraying certain things. So I'll give this first episode because I want there to be room for improvement because it does really go up for me. So I'm going to give this one like a 7 out of 10.
To both of them or to each?
For the first one, you said give it a score for the first episode and the second episode, so I'm gonna do it. So let me talk.
Okay, Okay, I thought you were jumping the gun, and I was about to call you out on it. But seeing as you know what, I'm the one who jumped the gun, and you were right to call
Ye
me
of
out
little
on it.
faith.
Oh my god.
Jeez.
Sorry, what was that score
And
again?
for the second episode, my final thoughts are that I really liked it. I think the battle with Hera and Chopper chasing down the hyperdrive was great. I think Chopper and his usual antics, I think they did Chopper perfectly. I think Hera, again, we'll talk about her in the future weeks, but took some getting used to for me. But still, I think she did an admirable job of, man, wearing those contacts and all the green paint, like just the effort all of these actors went through, especially Rosario Dawson and Mary Elizabeth Winstead, the commitment they had to playing these characters, absolutely incredible. So I'll give this one an 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10, and that first score was 7.5 because I was yelling at you and I didn't catch it.
7 out of 10.
7 or 7.5?
7 out of 10.
I'm trying to get you to raise your score. Hannah, what about you? Final thoughts, score out of 10. Scores out of 10, I should say.
Yes, solid jumping off point for a start of a show. I think there was just such a great establishment of the characters, the aesthetic, the kind of tone and direction of the show. It definitely got better from here on. But I think they had a lot into them. They had a lot in them. I'm giving both episodes 1 and 2 an 8 out of 10.
All right. Double 8s from Hannah. Chris, over to you. Final thoughts, scores out of 10.
Yeah, I think we're all very much on the same page about this one. It was a good start. Not perfect, not the best episodes of the season, but definitely something to build off of. And I both episodes are 8 out of 10 for me too. Also hard to kind of separate them since I always watch them together.
Fair. Yeah, of all weeks, this week is probably the hardest to separate the two because we watched them together the first time, and I assume that's how we watch them all the time since. For me, I think I'd start both of them at an 8.5, but I'm gonna dock 0.5 from the first one for the stupid cliffhanger. So it's gonna be an 8, and I'm gonna give 0.5 back to the other one because I really liked all of the Huang dialogue, and I really did find it very gratifying to see that actor from House back on my TV screens. I didn't realize how much I missed him, so much so that I can't even think of what his real name is. So an 8 and a 9 from me, but a very strong start.
So we all average an 8 because that makes up for Ben's 7.
Yeah, I think so. So just a strong 8 across the board. But yeah, I know. I'm sure there's some folks listening to this that are screaming at their headphones. You didn't talk about Morgan Elsbeth at all. We'll get to that. You didn't talk enough about, you didn't touch on our brief first look at Ezra. We'll talk about Ezra as we get further into this. And we kind of skimmed over Hera and Chopper. We'll spend much more time on all of that in the weeks to come. That's the nice thing about doing it this way, having the whole picture, is that we can pick and choose some spots. We'll skip the news this week. There's not really a whole heck of a lot in there.
You're forgetting something.
No, I'm not forgetting. I just didn't bring up the thing, and so I was hoping you were going to forget.
Oh my god!
What was it?
Did you really think you're not going to get away with this? No, sir. No, sir.
Connections in the corner.
No, I've been taking notes for what, 4 months?
All right.
No.
All right. Well,
no, you're not getting out of this. You haven't encouraged this for years. You can't get out of this, okay? We're in this together. Well, strap in and don't make me pull this car over, all right? We're doing this.
All right. Well, in that case, it is the demanded return of Ben's Connection Corner. Connections in the corner with Ben. It's Ben's Connection Corner. Do.
How's it going, everybody?
Ben's Connection Corner is filmed in front of a live studio audience. I genuinely, Ben, I had thought of this yesterday, that I needed to have that ready. And then I forgot until 5 minutes into the show. And it just like you can probably see it on my face at some point going, oh no. Oh God, I forgot. Oh, it's not there. And then I'm like, surely he doesn't want to do this. He hates doing this. I've been torturing him since Andor with this whole segment. Surely he doesn't want to do this. And then you're like, I want to do it. So, all right, just know.
Do you think I watched all these episodes multiple times to take copious notes so you can freaking just gloss over it? And speaking of things that people would be yelling at their iPods over, God, we would never hear the end of this.
iPods. Okay.
Get off my lawn.
50 iPod.
Get off my lawn. Screw you.
Go back and
get off my
record this on
beard.
Skype, why don't we?
Yeah,
Oh,
you kids listening to your internet radio on
I
your
don't know
iPods.
About you, but I just threw my Zune across.
Also, I'm looking at my notes. There's a lot here, so strap in.
All right.
Oh God.
So here we go. Seriously, I did I did research for this. Okay, I was doing research today for this. Some of these are obvious, some of these are not obvious. We'll skip the ones that are obvious. Obviously, the Eta class shuttle, as seen in the Clone Wars, we get the grand return of that ship. Always like that design. Always kind of cool, little precursor to the Lambda. Obviously shows up here. I love that Balin says. One of his first lines is, "Allow me to show you my identification." He pulls out his lightsaber, and then later on in the episode, Huang identifies him based on his lightsaber. So
this is like a connection within the episode.
I mean, it can be any kind of connection. It'll be any type of damn connections I want to be. Damn it. We get an obligatory David Collins cameo over the I think he's yelling about getting killed by a dark Jedi or something like that. And I need to do more research on this, but I swear to God, there's a QR code on Morgan Elsbeth's back. I swear. There's a QR code looking thing on her back.
On her back.
And on the back of her, like it's like some kind of on the back of her
Scan
uniform.
back, just like
you scan it, and it's a freaking a Rickroll.
So Chris, let me ask you this. Do you remember the very first Star Wars Underworld t-shirts we produced for Star Wars Celebration 6?
I know, I do.
I mean, okay, I
you
tried
know what?
to forget about that.
You know what? Ben, keep talking.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Oh, wow.
Oh boy, here we go. Okay, so speaking of Morgan Elsbeth, I don't know if this is not confirmed, I believe, but I saw some chatter online, and this really does seem to match up with it. Morgan Elsbeth's jumpsuit, her prison jumpsuit, is yellow. Seems to be a reference. It seems to be very much matching her godfather, Bruce Lee, who wears a similar yellow jumpsuit in one of his movies, maybe Enter the Dragon. I'm not sure. I'm not super familiar with Bruce Lee movies. But so that's an interesting little tie-in. I feel like that might actually be a thing. It's actually in the episode, but some of the concept art that showed up online of the first planet where we see Ahsoka has Zepho designs. So that's fueled a lot of speculation about like, well, what's going on and things. There are also I think it's just stuff on Peridia that maybe looks like that. And this next part is what I like to call, it's a segment within a segment, Ben's disconnection corner. It's when I find production mistakes in the thing. And I actually found a blooper. I love it when I do this. So if you watch closely when you see Ahsoka things and she throws her lightsabers into the ground to cut a hole, and then you see it later when she jumps out of the hole, this hole is in two different places. At first, it's like you can tell by the design of the thing that it's moved a little bit. It's weird. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. But I like that.
That's really interesting. Wow.
So obviously we got HK-87 droids, which are obviously the successors to the HK-47 droids from Knights of the Republic, previously seen in The Mandalorian. At first I thought the ghost was not in these episodes, but and then I looked back, and if you look dead center into the canopy of the T6 shuttle as they're pulling in, you can see. Yes.
Ben. Sorry to interrupt. That thing I went to go find, I can't find it. So I promise for next week. Not only will I find it, but I'll wear it.
Oh, amazing.
Amazing. Oh
I
my God.
just realized I don't know where the heck mine is. Which
I thought I knew where mine was, and then it wasn't there. So I have a few other places I could check. All right, finish up with your little connections there, bud.
Close QR app. Okay.
Don't rush me. Don't rush me. So if you look in the dead center in the canopy of the T6 shuttle as it's pulling into the Home One hangar, you can see the ghost in the background. Which I didn't catch the first couple times I watched the episode. So Hera is wearing the exact same shirt that she wears in the Rebels epilogue in this episode. I guess in the entire season. So that was pretty cool. Obviously, we got the Home One briefing room from Return of the Jedi. We got Clancy Brown as Ryder Raeside. We got Seekell back. We've just covered all those. There's a Godel behind it. One of my favorite aliens, the Godel, or Gotal, whatever you want to call it. There in the background on Lothal. First appeared in the cantina in Star Wars. Are you reading during this? Are you bored? Excuse me. Are you bored? Am I boring you? Are you not going to pay attention, class?
This bit is so good.
I'm trying to teach you something. You better damn well pay attention.
Take that, Rebel Scum. Take that.
All right, Ben.
These darn kids. These darn kids.
Days.
You have one more.
We're all too busy on our iPods.
Yeah, one more.
I am not finished.
I love it. Give me more. Give me more. I want more. I want more connections.
The song Sabine is listening to is called Igya Ka. It's sung by Sarah Tudzin, lead singer of the indie rock band Illuminati Hotties.
Oh, so that's
look at this.
That's a good one. That's actually a good connection. I like that. That's good.
Oh, the other ones weren't good? Oh, okay. I see how that is.
I mean, the other ones were, hey, there's this thing that you could have seen in the episode that's very obvious. They called them out by name. Isn't that what
this segment is, though? This is what this segment is. That's what this segment is, okay? Have you lost the plot?
Connection time.
This segment
Continue
began.
with connections.
You have 20 seconds.
Yeah, sure. All right, I'll try to speed it up a little bit. I'm skimming through. I'm skimming. Give me some credit. Obviously a lot of different things in the background of Ezra / Sabine's house. We got the biker scout helmet. And a lot of different things.
Ben's
we have a reference.
Connection Corner. Connections in the corner with Ben.
And so we also have a reference to the Clone Wars with Hugh Wang saying 75% of the original parts.
Ben's Connection Corner is filmed in front of a live studio audience. All right, that was a great edition of Ben's Connection
What
Corner.
more?
And if you look on the temple floor,
all right, it's time
there is a
again
symbol
for
called
our
the
favorite
Triqueta.
segment.
Where it's actually a real world symbol dating back to the 7th century. I did a lot of research on this, and it means a lot of different things to a lot of different cultures. But I don't know what any of that means, other than the fact that this is the little 3-pronged thing that you see on the floor, which Sabine figures out. But it's through a lot of different pop cultures, including you can see it on the side of Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
All right.
Oh.
And it's now time. Yeah, those are strong ones to end on. All right, it's time.
Never gonna do
And
a
now on
now.
to that was just the first episode. So Toil and Trouble is up next.
I want them.
All right, I've muted Ben. It's time once again for our favorite segment.
Why you edgy connection?
No, you ain't gonna do that.
You would force him to give us connections when we were doing Bad Batch.
I know.
Yeah, I love how this works. I love how this works. Just the complete 180.
It was fun when he didn't want to do it.
It was fun.
Oh my god.
Look, good people who listen to the show have asked for questions, have submitted questions, and I feel like it's our duty to answer them. So,
privately tell me the connections of episode 2 later, Ben.
I'll send you the notes. Whisper
Oh
them
my
to me.
goodness. All right. Let's start with the super chat. This one comes from Andrew Haley. Says, I love all that y'all do. Keep up the great work. May not feel this way after that last connection corner. Who's to say?
No returns.
Oh,
Joel says Shin stabbing Sabine in the chest is their love language. Wolf Ren for the win.
Oh my.
Okay.
I love it.
Canon.
I
It's
love
been a
it.
thing.
Canon.
This has been a thing for months now.
Sure.
And it's not stopping.
Nor should it. Also from Joel, says, do you think John and Dave will hear the criticism about including more writers in future seasons of their show, or will they ignore it and stay the course? Yes. I think yes. I think Skeleton Crew might have more writers.
Wait,
Do I think Mandalorian will? No.
Because that's not Skeleton Crew is not a Dave and John show, right?
But it's a Mandoverse show. They're executive producing it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean they're still the big bosses. Like the Spider-Man guys have to answer to them.
What?
Yes.
Actually, this is new.
Sorry.
This is new.
I
I'm
was
just
like-
learning this actually.
They're executive producers on that show. Like that's anything to do with the Mandoverse is them
Huh.
at the end of the day.
Interesting.
Okay. Do you want more writers on the show?
Yes, but I don't think they're going to.
Okay. Yeah.
That's the answer.
Right.
Anyone else?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Star Wars doesn't often yield to criticism. And when
No.
they do, it's really bad.
Mm,
It's the wrong criticism.
It's the
Fair.
wrong criticism.
fair. Joel also says fans forget Dave is George's student, but not his clone. Dave doesn't do it 100% George's way. Dude, I assume by dude he means Dave, is using an EU character in Thrawn as the big bad.
I think he meant dude, actually.
Yeah, you know what? It does work.
Hearing
Dave
it
is
in
a
Joel's
dude.
voice, I'm like, yeah, the dude.
Dave,
yeah.
Dave is a dude. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You-
I can see it.
Ben's
I can see it.
connection
Dude.
corner. Is the big bad? Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, agreed. All right. Thank you, Joel. Let's go to the Discord. What have we got from Discord? Good question here from Martin Ingleston. Martin says, not an Ahsoka related question, but have you all seen the Young Jedi Adventures on Disney Plus? And what are your thoughts of the show in general and the connections to the High Republic? Also with the Young Jedi Adventures, what are your thoughts on having a new person voice Yoda that is not Tom Kane or even Frank Oz? Anyone watched Young Jedi Adventures? Anyone checked it out?
Yes, a bit of it. I thought it was
Shamefully
pretty
no.
good. I thought that the amount that I'd seen of it was pretty decent. I actually liked it.
Yeah, I've
It,
seen about 4 episodes of it. I like it. It's cute, but I'm not a 5-year-old, so it doesn't draw me back to it over and over again. But like when they do episodes that tie in with the High Republic, like I watched the Bell and Loden episode, and I watched the one where they go to Starlight Beacon. Like those were cool. They're cute. They're fun. Characters are good. I think if I was 5, I'd really like it. I think if I had a 5-year-old, I'd enjoy watching it with them. But seeing as neither of those are the
you don't have a
reality we live
5-year-old.
in.
You've got a 15-year-old. So
Yeah,
yeah.
do some math here.
Yeah. Actually, good
on that
point. Wait, you're not 55?
No, I know I have the hairline of a 55-year-old,
Yeah.
but not
That's so
the life experiences. No, strangely. But yeah. Also, the Yoda guy does a fair job. It's not Tom Kane. It's not Yoda. But it's fine. It's decent.
Yeah,
It's not Tom Kane. It's not Yoda, but it's decent.
It's decent. Yeah.
What do you mean it's not Yoda? Well, no
I mean,
one's
it is. I
Yoda.
mean, it's not Frank Oz. That's what I meant.
Oh.
It is Yoda.
Sorry. Like
Not
okay.
Frank
Tom
Oz.
Kane is Frank Oz.
Yes,
And Yoda's actually Frank.
in disguise.
I thought Yoda was the guy who does Fozzie from Muppets.
Wait, who's who now?
It's Ben's Connection Corner.
Yeah, connect that one.
Figure that one out, Ben. Figure out that one,
man.
and we'll let you
What's the
read
connection?
page 2 of your note.
Did you know that in Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back from 1980, Frank Oz voiced, that's a connection right there. Frank Oz voiced Yoda.
Wow.
Oh, you really had me going there. I really thought you were about to freaking drop some
I
knowledge.
thought that was Jim Henson.
I was like, oh, what do you got?
I have Hannah so enthralled that I
Yeah,
can say anything.
Damn. Let's go. What do you got for me, Ben? Yeah.
Oh, amazing. And finally, is this the worst version of Ask the SWU? And not because of the questions, because of us. Potentially. Finally, we have one from Kajira who writes, man, whenever someone said the Ahsoka show, as in referring to the series, of course, I kind of thought that perhaps in universe, Ahsoka really does have her own talk show, LOL, like how Kelly Clarkson, Jennifer Hudson, Drew Barrymore have their own talk shows like Ellen and Oprah. How would an Ahsoka talk show be like? Who would be her first guests? What other segments would she do? Who would be the guest on the Ahsoka talk show?
Chopper first guest.
I feel like Chopper's like the band leader. Like he's off to the side with his little hands conducting.
Yeah.
I kind of am just stuck at the Ahsoka talk show like Kelly Clarkson, because on Kelly Clarkson's talk show, what she does is she sings every week, every day, however often that is. And so now I'm just picturing Ahsoka doing like covers of like popular
she's doing
songs.
Da Hut Munah as like a special event. Da Hut
Or would she?
Munah.
I mean, she'd have to use like her skills in some ways. So everybody who comes up.
Oh man, this 1 second delay.
Ben
is
Hart, the
golden.
Star Wars guy.
Ben
Yes.
Hart, the Star Wars guy.
Star Wars rules. This is momentous. This is exciting. Why, hello there, Ben.
Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
He is the founder of the Star Wars Underworld, Mr. Ben Hart. How's it going, everybody?
Can I say something?
Sure.
Meeting everyone in person, you all stand differently than to what you sit down. You all three of you look vastly different standing up than what you do sitting down. Like, I say that because the first time I saw Ben in real life, my very first thought I said to myself in my brain is, he stands like that. And I did it to all of you, and like I didn't know that you were that tall, Dom. And Chris, like you.
How
have a
should I
specific
stand?
walk. Like everyone vertical is so different to like our sitting down state. I just had to get that off my chest. I've been sitting on that for like a year and a half.
on
Fair.
stream more often.
Fair.
I'm doing next week's podcast standing.
Yeah, we should do a standing.
Do it Pat McAfee style.
Yeah.
There we go. There we go. All right. Thank you to.
I'll just stand for the rest of the show.
Look at the way he stands. It's so different. It's like not even good or bad. It's just like so different to what you are. It's like what? Why
Oh
do you
man.
stand like that? Oh,
Huge thanks to everybody who submitted questions this week. Thank you to Joel. Thank you to Martin. Thank you to Kajira. And thank you to Andrew. Thank you all for submitting your questions. I'm sorry that this segment has gone so very off the rails. We were so like serious in our analysis of Ahsoka. I think a lot of silliness was bubbling up under the surface, and it emerged over the course of the last two segments. How better than to settle ourselves in for the finale of the show than by going back in time to San Diego Comic-Con to chat with Star Wars author E.K. Johnston about the novel Star Wars Crimson Climb. This was a great conversation we had back at Comic-Con. Again, you'll hear some background noise in this one. It's audio only, so all the visuals are added in after the fact. But I will say, there's a moment in this interview that might be the most embarrassed I've ever been in an interview.
Oh.
And I want to thank E.K. Johnston for handling it so smoothly and sliding right past it. So I will let you all see if you can decipher that moment. It's subtle, but it's also big. Enjoy.
All right, so we're back at San Diego Comic-Con with Star Wars author E.K. Johnston. E.K., thanks for taking some time for us.
You're welcome.
I just as a Canadian, I just have to point this out. I just saw you offering around some of our lovely snacks from back home to all the Americans here. I assume that's part of your any of your American convention traditions, right?
Definitely. I usually bring coffee crisps. Sometimes I bring Smarties if I want to really confuse people. And I have an ongoing deal with Adam Christopher where he brings me Galaxy bars and I bring him coffee crisps, and he's not here, so I have to do without.
Yeah. We'll get him at the next one. I know you've incorporated Canadian references into your other books. I'm wondering if Crimson Rise has any Canadian stuff you've snuck in there.
Now I'm trying to think. I'm like, is there any Canadian things in Crimson Climb? There was. I wrote it last fall, and it was like the third book I'd written in a row, and I was like, okay, everything that I love is going in this book. So there's like an Indiana Jones murder temple, and like there's so much crime, and like all these kinds of really fun stuff. And I honestly do not remember if there's like, I should have done a Canada Planet. That was a missed opportunity. But yeah, there's not a ton of Canadian content in this one. But I feel like it always kind of shows through anyway, even when I'm trying not to. Like I remember when I was doing the Padme books, at one point they're voting, and the story group was like, is there a reason they're not voting on computer? And I'm like, it literally never crossed my mind to have them vote on a computer, because we don't. Like, we vote on a tiny little piece of paper with a pencil, right? Like, so that's why they vote. Like, hard copy votes on Naboo.
It's very, very Canadian on Naboo.
They appoint their senator. That was the other question they had. We're like, don't they elect the senator? I'm like, oh, right, you guys elect your senator.
Yeah, it's like, oh, yeah, that is how you guys do that. So your next novel is all about Kira. And you drew this comparison a little bit in the panel today of, the Padme books are all about people who want to do good things. They're trying to do what's right in the galaxy. Kira is very much the opposite. Do you want to expand on that a little bit, as much as you can?
Yeah, sure. So basically, it's not even just the Padme books. Like, of my 13 books so far, all of them are about people, usually girls, trying to do, like, the good thing, the best thing, the kind thing, like helping other people. And Kira's not down for that, because she did it once. She did it once with Han and almost died. And several really bad things happened to her as a result. And so after that, she decides to be a survivor instead. And that sort of means that sometimes she does do good things, but never for the right reasons. Like, she kind of, like, in the comics, she's trying to take down Palpatine, which is like a net good thing. But she's going about it in not the best way. And so I kind of got to lean into that in the book, which was kind of fun, because usually I do write characters who are like, oh yes, we will do the good thing, and then Kira's like, yeah, you can die and I'll be okay with that because I'm alive.
Yeah, and you mentioned it. Kira's kind of become a publishing darling. She's all through the comics, we're getting this novel now as well. What's it like to try and incorporate as many references and as much of what has been done already in the other publishing, admittedly in her future, into your story?
I think the fact that it takes place in the future was like a little bit easier for me, because I didn't have to worry about like continuity. I just had to make sure that it was consistent with where she was going. And the way that she's written in the Vader comics and in the Crimson Reign comics is still very like ambitious and very personally motivated. The line that I kept coming back to over and over again is something she says to Leia during the Bounty Hunter showdown, War of the Bounty Hunter. I forgot the word for war. When she says, "You inspire, I manipulate." And that was something I kept coming back to her over and over again. This is her learning to manipulate. And then working off of what Ray Carson wrote in Most Wanted, the mistakes that Kira made in that book that she's decided to not make anymore, and what Mur Lafferty added to her backstory as well, which was the actual section that I got to write. So I love the teamwork aspect. And I even got to take some stuff from Daniel Jose Older's book, because it takes place on Corellia. and Proxima's in it. So I was like, as soon as I read that, I was like, ooh, wait a minute, I have to change my pitch. And it just sort of gives an idea of literally the world that Kira comes from, where if you cross the gang leader, you don't just die, you get eaten. And like the way that can motivate a person.
And that world she comes from is, of course, the Underworld, Star Wars Underworld. We are all about the seedy underbelly of the galaxy. What was it like for you getting to write a story that's very much set in that world?
Honestly, it was kind of fun. I think I like the sort of difference between Proxima's version of the Underworld and Dryden Voss's version of the Underworld. Dryden Voss's is a lot more comfortable if you're a certain level, and a lot more uncomfortable if you're a certain level. And Kira gets both of that. And it's also a very precarious place. And Kira knows that going in, so she's not going to make the same mistakes again. And she's not going to allow other people to make the mistakes that might result in her getting hurt as well. And sometimes that means she doesn't speak up when people get killed, and sometimes that means she kills them herself. So it's a very mercenary, I suppose, approach. But it's also very simple and honestly kind of sympathetic, because she doesn't want to die. That's her primary motivation. It's not comfort, it's not improvement, it's just alive. That's all she's after. And every time she strays from that, bad things happen. So you get to kind of see her put that together.
Yeah, I mean, you used the word survivor earlier. I mean, Kira's kind of the ultimate survivor, going from what we see of her story, what we've seen of her story already, and then what we're going to see in your book. Obviously, a defining relationship for that character is Han Solo. I'm going to go out on a limb and say Han doesn't appear in the book.
No.
But it is a character.
Maybe. Ooh. He's very much there in spirit sometimes.
Yeah. That's what I was going to ask. Like, how much does the specter of Han Solo loom over Kira's story at this moment in her life?
Well, I love a good framing device. So a lot of the incidental sections of the book, the parts that are going to be in italics, that kind of stuff, are what she thinks of Han. And the line that I wrote the book around, basically, was every time she thinks of his name, she smiles. And she used that as a weapon when she needed to get through terrible things or do terrible things. When she needed, instead of being able to cry on command, basically, she can make herself charming on command. But she's not particularly happy about it because she's really pissed off at him. Even though she understands. She's mad.
It's an interesting dynamic to have between those two characters. Obviously, Kira's sort of the center of the story, and you mentioned on the panel that she's the center of the story, and there's nobody that really comes with her at this moment in her life. So you got to create a whole world of characters to go with her. Is there anyone that you can talk about that you're really excited for readers to meet?
Her sort of foil in the book was very, very fun to write. And the way that she layers into the story. And also a character I did not create but had a tremendously fantastic time writing was Dryden Voss. I basically watched A Knight's Tale 14 times on an airplane, and then wrote all of his speeches with Chaucer delivery, but Dryden Voss's character. And it was super fun. Paul Bettany is somehow able to play a million super iconic characters, but still be Paul Bettany the whole time, and also lose himself in the role completely. I'm not sure how that works. He's very good at his job, obviously, and kind of writing his sort of incredibly dark charisma and casual violence was kind of fun.
Amazing. Well, I know you've got a signing to get to, so I'll let you go. One quick question for our American listeners, or all of our international listeners: best Canadian chocolate bar?
What is the best Canadian chocolate bar? I do really love the Coffee Crisp. Yeah. It's a classic for a reason.
Yeah, can't really go wrong with the Coffee Crisp. The other one I always like to get people to try is caramel.
Oh, yeah. The thing I appreciate about Coffee Crisp is they've had the same slogan for my entire life. It's printed on the package. It's still the exact same slogan. It's amazing.
Incredible. Thank you so much.
big thanks to EK Johnston for that chat. It's great talking Canadian civics, Canadian candy, and of course Star Wars with you. And I apologize for getting the title of your book wrong. In the
I
interview.
didn't catch that. Oh,
I
my
called
God.
it Crimson Rise instead of Crimson Climb, excuse me.
Oh my God.
And when she corrected me, I'm so glad there wasn't a camera on my face, because I'm sure I just looked mortified. Because
Oh my days.
and she does it really smoothly too. Like if you go back and listen to it, she's like, yeah. So as I was writing Crimson Climb, like she just says it correctly. She doesn't like call attention to it. So like I appreciate that about her. So she's Canadian. She's great. But I as soon as I said that, I'd been prepping for the interview and I'd been thinking a lot about Crimson Reign, which is the comic book series that's all about Kira. And so that was in my head, and I knew Climb and Reign just became one in my mind, which was Rise. So
Which still
Crimson
means
Rise.
the same thing.
Yeah, it
so
does. It does. Yeah,
I get
I'm
why.
sure if you translate the some other language title back to English, I'm sure it's Crimson Rise in some way. shape,
Red
or form.
Rise.
But yeah, the book is available now. You can go read it, go buy it wherever good books are sold. And if you're ever in Canada, try a coffee crisp. They are great. All right. I think that's about gonna do it for us here for this week.
All right. Thank you, everybody, so much for watching. We, just as last week, are so glad to be back, and we're excited to be back next week, same time, same place. My name is Chris. You can follow me on social media at Seekthrough. Dominic, we want to thank you so much for hosting as well.
My name is Dominic, and you can follow me on social media at DominicJ25. Yeah, great fun. Great fun talking about just the way you said my name is Chris. I was like, that's interesting. That's a different way of doing it.
I figured, I specify who all of you are at the end and how to follow you, but they may have forgotten
Sound
who
logic.
I was by the end of the podcast.
Yeah.
So I'm like, maybe I should say my name again instead of just, you can follow this random voice on social media.
There you go. There you go. But yeah, great fun to be back. Great fun to talk about these episodes. Great fun connecting with Ben in the corner again, because that's what we do these days. And thank you again to EK Johnston for that fantastic interview back at San Diego Comic-Con. I've only got one Comic-Con interview left to share with y'all. You can probably guess what it is if you've been listening to the show for a long time. But we'll get to that, if not next week, then in the weeks to come. Because also might have something else in the works for next week that's kind of exciting. Or if not next week, a future week very, very near. But we'll get to that when we get to that. Anyways, this has been a great show. Can't wait to do all this again in 7 days' time.
Heck yes, and of course you can follow Dominic on social media at DominicJ25. Ben, thank you so much for hosting as well.
And obviously, in the medical infirmary scene, we see a 2-1B medical droid treating Sabine. And then later on in the episode, there's actually an astromech droid driving a speeder. And this is very similar, if not exactly the same, as what you get in Rise of the Resistance, which is one of the best rides ever. And the Overseer dude mentions IW-37S droids, load lifter droids. And we actually see those in Revenge of the Sith, which I thought was a pretty cool thing. And yeah, thanks guys for listening.
More connections at Ben Harvey.
I'm finished, okay?
So good.
And Hannah, thank you for
I might have to take this to my own blog or something.
Yes.
Higher show.
The Ben blog. The Ben log. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a great time. Great banter as always. Good stuff. Thanks for the memes.
At the Raeside, RAE side. And if you're curious, Hannah is spelled HANNAH. You're welcome.
Thank you. Yes. Spell it backwards though.
Yes. Even if you're dyslexic, it's fine. It's okay.
It works out.
But don't be looking for the air side. I think that's a different channel. Dan got the assist on Breaking Dominic, but I got the elimination.
Oh my day.
You can follow us on Threads. That's the only social media we're on at the SWU. Not on anything else.
This is true.
Really?
This is true. The only social media any of us care about.
The only real one. Only real ones use threads on their iPods.
At the SWU on Threads. That's where you can find us.
We're deleting all the rest of them.
On
tonight.
social media. Please check out our Discord. It's awesome. We've got game nights. And check out all the other shows on the Star Wars Underworld Network. I'm breaking down here. You can check out the Raeside on the Raeside channel, Iron Cannon on this channel, Tales from Beyond the Galaxy, and Tractor Beam on separate channels. Tales from Beyond the Galaxy is on Twitch.
Tractor Beam's on this channel.
And Tractor Beam is on this channel. I don't know if we have that new hot off the press yet, but
no, not yet.
When it comes,
it
will be hot.
It'll be hot, which is to say it'll be cold.
But I think we have new IPC. I think.
Oh yeah, we do. It's not out yet, but we didn't talk about Star Wars or anything. We talked about our favorite holiday foods. That was the thing. It'll be out soon.
Awesome. So make sure you search up IPC and subscribe so that you don't miss that when that comes out. And finally, thank you everybody for watching on YouTube. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't. Thanks to everybody who super chatted, and thanks to all of our channel members, and thanks to everybody who subscribed and has reviewed us on your favorite podcast app. So that's it. Until next week, I am Chris for Ben and Hannah and Dom. May the Force be with you.
It's a wrap.